I want you to think back to March of 2020. We all thought it was going to be a 2-week vacation, right? We grabbed our laptops, found a corner of the dining room table, and figured we'd be back to the office by Easter. Well, Easter came, and Easter went. And then so did the next 6 years. Suddenly, the world's largest corporations were forced into the largest social experiment in human history. And guess what? The sky didn't fall. For a while, it felt like we'd finally cracked the code to a better life. But then, the return to office mandates started dropping like hammers. So today, we are looking at the journey from 2020 kitchen table era to the 2026 hybrid reality. We're pulling verifiable facts from the last 6 years to answer the biggest questions. Is remote work actually better for the world, or are we just getting less done? We've got the data, the CEO drama, and the truth about your productivity. Let's get to it. But before we dive into these numbers, please, because, some of them are going to surprise you, some of them probably won't. But I want you to do me a huge favor. If you enjoy these deep dives into how the world is changing or has how it's changed, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really is the only way a small creator like myself can keep the lights on and keep bringing you these perspectives of Jerry. Seriously, every subscriber helps. All right, so let's talk about the panic surge of 2020. I first want to start with the big myth. Everyone just goofed off during the pandemic. Well, the data actually says the exact opposite. According to a massive study out of Stanford by Nicholas Bloom, productivity actually jumped by 13% in those first few months. Now, why is that, you ask? Well, it was because, wasn't because we were more expired. No. We were panic working. I know, weird term, panic working. Think of it as, hey, that 10-page paper is due tomorrow and you don't even have an outline. You're panic working through the night. But really, jokes aside from my wonderful old college days of too many writing emphasis courses, I want you to think about it. The world was shutting down. People were being laid off. And we had nowhere to go. We gave back about 40% of our saved commute time directly to our employers. If you used to spend an hour in traffic, well, you are now spending that hour answering emails at 7 instead of at 8. By 2021, the National Bureau of Economic Research found that Americans alone did over 60 million extra work hours. And we weren't working from home, we were sleeping at the office. Really. That surge just wasn't sustainable, though, and it led to the great burnout of 2022, which, of course, is where things got messy. Around 2023 and 2024, the vibe shifted. The heroes of 2020 were suddenly being told they were slackers if they just didn't show back up to the cubicle. We saw this massive divide. On one side, you had 76% of workers saying they'd quit before going back full time. On the other side, you had CEOs like Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan and Elon Musk at Tesla basically saying, if you don't show up, you don't work here. But here's the verifiable fact that bosses didn't want to hear. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics tracked productivity across 61 different industries during this fight. They found that the industries with the highest rates of remote work, like tech and professional services, actually saw a higher output growth than the industries that forced everyone back. Microsoft, good old Microsoft, even coined a term for the disconnect, and they called it productivity paranoia. They found that 85% of leaders didn't trust their employees were actually working, while 87% of employees reported they were more productive than ever. It's a total breakdown of trust, and it cost companies billions, with a B, billions, in turnover. All right, so fast forward to today, early 2026. Who actually won that fight? Well, here's the answer. The hybrid model. The great compromise. As of right now, every 1% increase in remote work is linked to a 0.08% boost in total economy. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but you got to realize, we're talking about the entire US GDP. Those numbers add up. Now, let's talk about the big deal here, the money. I hate to say it, folks, it all comes back to the money. For a company, the savings were staggering. On average, a business saves roughly $11,000 per employee per year by moving to a hybrid or remote model. Think about the real estate costs, the electricity, the snacks in the break room, the internet connectivity, all of that. It adds up. But it's not just the bosses saving money. The average worker is also saving between $5,000 and $7,000 a year on gas, tolls, car maintenance, and overpriced office lunches. That's a life-changing amount of money for most families. So when people ask, is it really that big of a deal? Yeah, a vacation every year kind of big deal. But let's be fair about this for just a second here. This doesn't work for everyone. If you're in healthcare or manufacturing, you can't really weld a car or perform surgery on a Zoom call. Those industries stayed 80 to 90%, on site. They had to. It's just the way those industries work. I mean, those are major industries. Think also of food service industries. Your average fast food worker. You can't exactly just call that in from your computer at home, right? This affects everybody, and it affects everybody differently. Now, if we go for the service industries, now we go to looking at other industries like tech, financing, marketing. Well, the office now becomes a collaboration hub rather than a daily jail cell. We've seen that deep work, the stuff that requires focus, happens better when you're at home. Way less distractions. The office is now for the bursts. The meetings, the brainstorming, and the social stuff. We finally stopped pretending that sitting in a cubicle for 8 hours is the same thing as being productive. At the end of the day, the perspectives of Jerry on this is extraordinarily simple. The pandemic was a terrible thing, but it gave us one valuable lesson. It proves that work is something that you do, not a place that you go. And the data from 2020 to 2026 shows that we are more efficient, we're saving more money, and honestly, we're a lot less stressed when we aren't spending 10 hours a week at looking at somebody's bumper on the I-95. And I don't care what state you're in, you probably have an I-95. The office isn't dead, but the old school command and control style of management, well, that's definitely on its way out. But what do you guys think? Are you working from the couch today, or did your boss pull you back to back into the office full of fluorescent lights? I want to talk about it in the comments. And if you found this breakdown helpful, I want you to please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. It really is the best way to help me grow. And if you also want to support my research just a little bit more, please click on the link in the description at buymeacoffee.com/perspectives of Jerry. Every cup helps keeps this channel independent and data driven, and it means more to me than you can expect. I want to thank you for hanging out with me for this perspective. As always, I'm Jerry. This was Perspectives of Jerry. You all have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.